Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings. Honda Classic, picks, bets, preview, one and done. Hey, you should probably message Jeff. You should probably message Cuss to get his one and done, because he's probably going to pick like 8 guys before he figures out who's into this tournament. We'll have that pending. And of course, all of the final bets and the final one and dones are going to be in the newsletter, which you can subscribe to for free down in the comment section. The Listeners League is down there, fantasynational.com/Mayo for 20% off. That link is down there as well. Let's talk about the Genesis. I don't think that the PGA really could have asked for a better 2-tournament stretch based on the leaderboards that we had and what these elevated events were supposed to do for the PGA Tour. Like, they kind of went all in on a few tournaments, and we're seeing that with the strength of the field this week. We saw it with the strength of the field at Pebble Beach, but those 2 tournaments were bangers, man. They got who they wanted on the leaderboard. Plus, the Genesis had Tiger.
There's nothing else to say. Those leaderboards were absolutely stacked for every, Nick Taylor threw a punch, Keith Mitchell threw a punch. It's always fun when that dichotomy sort of arises on a Sunday, but from top to bottom, these events, I mean, we joke about it, but this is an outright betting show, Pat. You gotta just sort of, it's an extremely finite world now in these elevated events. And I look forward. I'll lose money when a long shot wins, but I'm losing money when the top is winning too.
Yeah, John Rahm is just essentially a taker at this point, because no one is betting on John Rahm, yet John Rahm is winning every single week. He's turning into a real villain of the gambling community.
Like, Max Homa's such a likable guy, and it seemed like he's always a popular bet. So the John Rahm villainry, if that's even a word, went up an extra level this week. I guess it helps when some ridiculous, the bounce off the stanchion, that's crazy. That's insane. Even my dad is calling me after that to laugh about it. And then going literally over a fence into a parking lot or a dumpster area and getting free relief is, I know it was said, but I agree. It's one of the that's one of the things that makes like casuals or non-golf fans really be like, this sport is so stupid. You're tuning in on the weekend. You see, that makes no sense. That's a drop everywhere in the world. It's as silly as getting kicked out of a tournament for not signing your name on the document after you just played 18 holes, every single shot of which was recorded in video. Not that we get to see them, but I'm a John Rahm fan. Even I'd be like, well, this is annoying now. This is annoying. And my betting season's been annoying, Pat. And I had the highlight of my betting season this week. If you had to put a caption on me right now in my 2023 success stories in betting, it would be identified Patrick Cantley in the 30s as a bad number at the Genesis.
And it almost got there. I mean, he probably should have won based on how he played on Sunday. Just even when he would miss greens in regulation, his chips ended up a half inch from the hole. Like, Morikawa did this on Sunday last year, but all of his went in, and he ended up making that huge run. Cantley's just couldn't drop. And he made some long putts to go along with it too, but he would have been right there. And like the luck sack thing in terms of Rahm, yes, he got incredibly lucky on probably like 3 or 4 type things. The 2 that you mentioned were obviously the most glaring, but it's not like he didn't play well at the same time. Like, he was, it's like the back 9, he was absolutely unconscious.
So it reminded me, Pat, of when I still to this day, Kuchar's eating a sandwich in the fairway. Spieth is getting this insane free relief from Tomorrowland at an Open Championship with all the time in the world. And he gets it. He makes some great shots. But then from that moment on, he was insane. So it's like, oh my God, the guy, right? He got this break and then he goes unconscious. That's kind of what reminded me in some ways of, I mean, it didn't happen on the Sunday, but just Rahm in general. When it counted at the end, at the very end, like the final 6 holes, just incredible golf. And, unfortunate for Max, you had him as the bet. A lot of people did. Unlike you, I haven't had these. I mean, you're telling me Cantley should have won. The way the leaderboard kind of shaped out all week, there was a moment of hope, but I'm not I mean, you've actually had 2 second places to this ROM thing.
Yeah, that's
not
that's not
fun.
That's not. Let me assure you, it's not fun at all. Especially if Homa wins, then I've won twice this year, both on Max Homa wins, which would have been excellent. But I could feel the pit in my stomach once he missed that short birdie putt on 11, and Rom played that hole. Like his 10-11 stretch was just absolutely abhorrent, and he ended up tied with Mitchell and Homa on that hole. They all made fives, and Mitchell and Homa most definitely should have made birdies. And just the moment he missed that putt, like he didn't hit a fairway after that. I don't think he hit a green in regulation after that. Fortunately, because I also had him in the one and done, that putt on 18, I was trembling a little bit on that 4-footer because I think it would have been $1 million swing in the one and done had he have not made it. So at least in the giant one and done, I'm up to like 55th now after going Scheffler and Homa back-to-back weeks. But there's a ton of people who went Scheffler Rom. And if you're not getting the elevated events correct in the one and done, you're absolutely fucked.
And pools are over. I mean, I had Scheffler last year, so I got to ride that wave of pools being over by the Masters. Now, like your fantasy league, it's over. It's over. I don't know whether you should.
It's not over yet. Come on. It's not even March.
Yeah, it's the problem. It's not even March. The craziest thing about Rom is, I believe, what he did, Homa's strokes gained putting and not winning is one of the craziest things ever. But he did this to Finau in Mexico, Pat, where Finau had this ball striking week that maybe it was Justin Ray or one of the smart guys had some metric that said that ball striking week essentially wins 98 out of 100 events on the PGA Tour. How it didn't win that event is crazy. So that gave me vibes seeing Homa not being able to win with those sort of strokes gained putting. I'm sure that's probably 100 of 100 when you do that.
Yeah, you gain 11.3 strokes on the greens. Typically, you win a tournament. So we can talk about all the luck factor that goes in with Rom's win, but he's still, I mean, the strokes gained approach numbers are going to be kind of wonky from it because he ended up 4 feet for eagle on a hole on an approach that ricocheted and went directly next to the hole. So that was a huge boost in those numbers. You have to take them somewhat with a grain of salt. We're working on a thing at Fantasy National right now where you can kind of look at, you throw out like the top 2 approach shots that you hit in any given round, like the bottom 2. And you can go like hole by hole with it as well if you really want to go see how everything was accumulated. But if you just want a better sense, like throw out the top 2, throw out the bottom 2, and get a better sense of how guys were actually hitting approach shots that week. And I think that will be especially valuable for tournaments like this week at the Honda or the Players or somewhere where there's a lot of water, where you can really get, 2 bad shots can make it seem like you just didn't strike the ball well at all. Although on the other 16 approach shots, it might have been absolutely fantastic. Who knows if you're trying to project out going forward. But yeah, you can talk about all of Rom's luck. Like 11.3 strokes putting is pretty lucky week on the greens.
What Homa was doing, I don't want to, like, they're not fair to compare guys making insane up and downs. Like, it's a lot different than the luck sack moments of the top. But even Scheffler, even last week, going off cactuses back into play and then hitting 50-foot birdies, which there's nothing lucky. Well, you say it's lucky, but I mean, there's obviously Scheffler's skill involved. It feels like, and again, I'm the Rom fanboy, which feels like is a hyper minority. There is such a, maybe it's an annoyance or he's easy to cheer against, or I don't know, or Max was just so likable. So the Rom luck things are out of hand. They were out of hand this week, out of hand.
I wouldn't call, because the dagger putt that he had from like 55 feet or whatever it was for birdie.
From the fringe?
Yeah, from the fringe on that par 3. Yeah. That was, I've seen him make that putt so many times is the problem. Remember, he made it at the BMW to come back against DJ.
Makes that putt. Geez, I want to punch myself in the face for getting mad at Rom being lucky when he's literally just the absolute best. And how he scored on the par 3s at Riviera this week. What his proximity to the hole on the weekend on that 4th hole. Guy is just a machine. He's a machine. But that was great.
He finally looked human a little bit on hole 10 and he even caught a break on the drive, because I thought he was buried behind that tree and would have to play out sideways, and he wasn't, and still kind of messed it up, then messed up the next chip, and still got it up and down for bogey. It's just funny to see, like, that hole went about as poorly as it could go for him, and he still ended up with 5. I watched guys make like 6s and 7s on that hole during the week.
Yeah, I thought there could have been the big, I don't know, not that he's going to pull the Grillo and make a 10 to start the day with Tiger watching you.
That's tough. It's tough when Tiger's watching.
Yeah, that couldn't have felt good. Yeah, all sorts of trouble comes into play here, and you almost felt that third shot was going to go in the bunker because you've watched this hole so many times in your entire life, and that just seems to be how it ends up. But going into last week, Pat, I was not afraid of wrong. I'm not changing how I'm betting tournaments because of wrong. I'm just not. And I don't even know that I'm there yet. I hope just maybe we can get nicer numbers at the players. And I know there's a lot of players' numbers out there now. I need to see some things enhanced a little bit, for lack of a better term, with how well the top players are playing. But again, I'm spending too much money in the nice restaurant tour, like part of boards, when I maybe should just be going to like the ultra high end. We'll see. I don't know what I'm going to do.
We'll see if this is an outlier as well, because we've seen this particular stretch. And it happened last year with Scotty Scheffler when he just kept winning events, although his odds were a lot more generous than what Rahm's odds have come in. We saw this. This is more akin to what DJ did in the run up to the Masters that he ended up missing when he fell out of bed or slipped on the floor or whatever that was. I think he won Mexico, he won match play, and he won something else in between. I think he won Riv that year as well. He won 3 in a row going into the Masters. It was like, oh, good Lord. Like, is anyone going to beat DJ? The answer is going to be no. And then, like, DJ didn't win the rest of the year.
Yeah.
It can
that's very true.
Scheffler didn't win after the Masters last year.
All very good. Yeah, no, we've seen guys get scorching early and it kind of they peak, and it's no secret that the one thing that can maybe put a little cold water on Rahm is trip like the tour head into Florida. We will see. He's going to go to Mexico and be a 2-1 favorite.
Is he going to go to Mexico this year?
You know, there's a whole new dynamic to all of the scheduling. So that's fair, but it does seem like, I mean, maybe it's easy to say when you win. It's how do you put this? The Spanish thing, I don't know, he's kind of taken on an ambassador role to some of it. And I know that there's a difference between Spain and Mexico, but I'm just referring to his desire to be a world golfer. Sometimes those are things that you do, but I don't even know what it's between now. So if you reminded me and told me what the schedule is, I'd be like, uh-oh, big trouble for them.
I think it goes, off the top of my head, Masters, Heritage, and Heritage is an elevated event. Then I believe it's Zurich, then Mexico, then Byron Nelson, then PGA Championship. I believe that's deleted.
It's good. It's a good roll-off there. I mean, a good friend would just go fact check it, but I know it's kind of irrelevant. These elevated events have changed everything. Even Keith Mitchell is like, I never play the Genesis. I'm playing the Genesis. When he was asked about not playing the Honda, he's like, I love the Honda. I won the Honda. I always don't play the Genesis because of my commitment to the Honda. I always want to be ready for the Honda. But he's like, there's a new game within the game in town of professional golf, Pat.
You know, and we this is where the elevated events become a problem. And maybe the PGA Tour pushing all of its chip into the middle on like 6 events or 4 events, 5 events, plus the majors throughout the course of the season is actually the right move. I can see strategically trying to draw people in, whether it's going to be the right move or not. I think so far so good in terms of its success, and they're just leaving these other tournaments just to die by the wayside. But when Sam Ryder is withdrawing from your tournament because he needs to get ready for the next 2 tournaments because he just played the next 2 tournaments, we're starting to see a little bit of a problem now. Like, it's one thing if Keith Mitchell, defending champion who just had a top 5 at Riv, that's great. He won close to $1 million, and it was an $80,000 putt for him on 18 to get him up to I think it was $860,000 for coming in 5th place. But like you said, he's not the defending champ. He's a former winner of this event, and he's just like, can't do it, can't play. Too many good events coming up.
And here's like there's an overall issue. We all agree there's too many events. We wish they would take events off, but at the same time, I mean, it's an issue now. Honda's gonna bail, and that might create an issue.
I wouldn't want to
as they should
fucking attached to this tournament.
No, and they've been so loyal to the PGA. It's the longest running title sponsor, I think, on tour. And you're going to take a hot dump on our chest. We're just gone. We're gone. We can spend our corporate dollars like this elsewhere. The PGA Tour, on the other hand, will always just say, they probably acknowledge we run too many events. But if NBC and CBS want to put us on TV on the weekend and we'll find another great parent company to put our name on an event, we're going to host it. And guess what, golf fan? You don't have to watch. You think the PGA Tour has too many events? Then just maybe don't watch. But golf has this evergreen quality of it's on network TV on the weekend and on the back nine, whether people have heard the name or not heard the guys' names. They like seeing players hit golf shots. Good players hit golf shots. And that's it. That's it. So the same people that insulted this event before LIV will kind of continue to insult it. And the same people that watched it will continue to watch it. And as we agree, maybe the PGA Tour did something really smart in reaction to LIV by creating these super series and elevated events. And between those and the players and the majors, it creates a nice hub of really great events. We've spoken about it before. LIV did just as smart of a thing by saying, let's find the weakest links and let's have Cam and DJ golf on those weakest links. If you can find it on TV, you got to watch Cam and DJ hit golf shots this weekend, if that's what you want also.
So the only way to save these tournaments is to rent them out to LIV. Just lease out the Honda Classic. Be like, hey, LIV, here's your tournament. It's at PGA National. Let's get our money back.
Hell? Oh.
They'll never do it, obviously, but it's a great idea.
It is a great idea. And in a normal world where, that kind of makes sense. Obviously, it makes no sense because they're not going to give LIV their NBC. Like, you're not taking our...
No, it's an impossible ask, but that's actually the answer.
Yeah, in some ways, if they could have come together, LIV could have created their own super series within these events. I don't know how realistic when LIV says they wanted to play along. Maybe they did. We've heard rumors that the PGA said, here, have the fall. And they kind of scoffed at that. But here we are. And it's just that you can't deny that is for all these silly things, operationally that LIV, kind of does. And, there's still a new thing and they're easy to make fun of. The easiest low-hanging fruit win for them is going up against this and going up against the other really shitty fields that the summer is full of, surrounded by the other ones. But I don't know, this field will take so much heat. And I'm sure in the PGA, they're just like, if you don't want to watch, you don't have to watch.
I guess so. But this seems to be a problem. And I think Paul's experiences this right now with UFC, where they signed this ESPN deal, so they have to have a card 45 of 52 weeks a year. That you're watching these cards like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is horrible. Like, if you had just consolidated, you don't need to go 12 cards per year and do one pay-per-view a month, but if you just had like 30 and you just combine some of these crap ones into one, all of a sudden you just have a much better product. But if you're just talking about buying in bulk, and which is a lot of what these TV networks are doing. Like, hey, we need 7 hours on the weekend each of the days to fill up our airwaves, and that's what actually we're paying for because we can still sell commercials off of it, then I understand why it makes some sense. Do you have any sort of solution of how we can get around this? So we talked about match play is going away from Austin next year. We talked about maybe having it at Pebble Beach. I think this would be another really fun course to have match play on. But the issue isn't the format. The issue isn't the course. The issue is that it's sandwiched in an 8-point that you can win up to, like 1.4 million this week to the winner. There's 8.4 million in the prize pool. The past 2 weeks, 20 million, 20 million. The next 2 weeks, 20 million, 25 million. Like, that's the problem. I just don't know how you can change it. Like, a wonky format's not going to help.
Okay. And I mean, I don't play pro golf. The riggers on these guys, they probably do want a week off, right? After that schedule. But they're also making a decision. It's easy for us or some people on the outside to be like, I don't understand. Why doesn't this, like, go name all the guys that were in the 50 to 100 to 1 category last week and be like, why don't those guys just want to go to Honda and win an event? Like, they don't want a PGA win. They don't want a trophy.
And I'm someone who has mentioned this. Like, I even mentioned yesterday, it's like you have Woodland, Ricky, and Day. I think those are the big three. Because, I mean, there are three guys that have played really well at this event in their careers. But even they're saying, you know what? Like, I don't think that Day or Ricky are in the Masters as of yet. It seems like they're trending towards getting in and being top 50 in the world. If they can do well at some of the other elevated events, that would be great. But you know what also gets you in? A win here.
Yeah, no, you're right. So it's weird. It's like, I don't, like, go to Florida, go play golf for 4 days. You mentioned all the other things. There's still a lot of money, not maybe relative to last week, but relative to the PGA they knew 3 years ago. This is still a lovely payday at the Honda. But yeah, no, they have, I don't want to say bigger. It's unfair to say, okay, obviously they have bigger goals, winning the bigger tournaments, winning the majors, but they're just not interested. The juice isn't worth the squeeze, for lack of a better term. Just playing the other events and finishing 26th and then taking a week off, that's that squeeze, I guess, is worth it, regardless of a trophy or points or $1.5 million. Like, clearly we're going to see these fields this year. And what I'm saying right now is going to be the theme. Just not enough guys have the same opinion as casuals at home. Being like, why don't you just want to go win an event, man?
And I understand that. I think even if it was me and I had qualified for all these elevated events, of course I'd be skipping the Honda. Hey, it's a really tough course, and that's no fun either. Also, the quality of field has really been beaten down by LIV. Like, this was the tournament all the LIV guys played at.
This tournament, and it still got some of it, we used to love this tournament, because it always brought great names. Sergio Scott, Rory, Fowler, Brooks,
Bryson.
And Bryson.
No, Bryson.
JT.
Bryson played. I always played Bay Hill. I don't know if he played this one a lot.
JT, JT beat Listen to playoff with Noren and Fleetwood. Guys, I bet Woodland coming down the stretch. That was so much fun. The young guys, the young Americans, though, Pat, like the young rookies, the single guys living out of golf bags, it's even too good for them. Like, they're not even, none of these guys are even adopting the Sung J M lifestyle of, I'm just going to play the shit out of everything. The money is too good everywhere that the weeks off, whether it be to go see friends and family or just to nap, they have clearly put a value on them that's worth whatever positive can come in Honda.
I'm trying to think. Like, I remember I pitched you the Open Slam run during the season, where if you just played in all
Canada,
it'd be
Scotland,
you would go, because it goes on everything anyway. It goes Canada, U.S. Open, then you have the Travelers. But I think the Irish Open is that week as well. Then you have the Scottish Open, then you have the British Open. I believe the French Open is somewhere in there too. So you'd have these 6 weeks, and just call it the National Open Series or something like that. Remember they used to do the West Coast Swing when we were growing up, where if you won the West Coast Swing, essentially it ended at Amex or Phoenix, whatever it was. Charles Howell used to win it all the time because he used to play at all those events that you get a bonus $1 million or something like that if you had the most money coming out of it. You could do the same sort of thing with different parts of the schedule. I think that one would be super sharp, that if you could become inside the top 5 of the Open Championship Series, that you're guaranteed to be in all 4 majors or something like that, or you get an automatic bid into the playoffs regardless if you're on the PGA or DP World Tour, and make them co-sanction events and give someone a bonus, almost like the Wyndham Rewards, whatever it is. Not that that matters, but here's an extra $5 million for winning that. Maybe you could come up with a series for these courses that we really love but are just getting squeezed because they're not elevated events, and give people people some incentive to at least play in a few of them, because guys are still going to play the week before a major. I don't think that's going to end up being a huge casualty in all of this, because people like to prep before a major. So Valero's still going to, I mean, Valero's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but you're still going to get guys who show up and take their cuts. Byron Nelson, even last year, was kind of the same thing before the PGA Championship, where that field was super strong, and KH Lee ended up winning anyway. Canada doesn't seem to be in that big of a hole. It seems like guys are still going to come play the Canadian Open and the RBC stuff, and RBC has a big play in that too. And guys love to go over and play the Scottish Open to get themselves acclimated to the time zone, the links courses, to get ready for the Open Championship. It's these ones. So like Pebble, I mean, Farmers is going to lose its field here soon. So those two,
it's starting. The dip is on for Farmers.
Those two have a problem. Valspar and Honda have a problem. And then once we get later into the year, Travelers is an elevated event, Heritage is an elevated event. But if those aren't elevated events, no one's fucking playing those tournaments either.
It's all very well articulated, Pat.
But how do you
I don't know. I honestly don't know if this course could be on its last legs for the tour, because the PGA headquarters, not the tour headquarters, that's the players, those are moving. And I almost want to say they're maybe Austin, whatever is there, that PGA National, they're moving from there.
Hold on. Yeah, the PGA HQ is now in Frisco, Texas.
Frisco. Yeah, so it used to be on that property there, and if you've ever been to that property, you've seen all those I mean, it's like a 3 golf course property with homes and office building. It's quite interesting. I love that course, and that we always have fun. Like, this would be the European Tour hard out. This is where so many guys that either they're like a young up and coming golfer, or that 30-year-old Euro that we've just been tracking, or you were up watching lots of nights because you had a newborn. This was usually where we got to see them for the first time, and it was a lot of fun. Or Europeans you never heard of introduce themselves to us at Bay Hill and the Honda. And I don't know if we're going to lose that, because there's still a lot of random Europeans here, but
there are random Europeans here, but I would have liked to see Victor Perez and Antoine Rosner and like the top 10 from the DP World Tour. This seems like a really good event to get them into for a bigger prize, but we have some of them. And obviously, some of the guys that I really like are playing this week, but there's like 3 of them.
To that point, this would have been an ideal, I know you've mentioned in other ways, but there is an actual DP PGA alliance. This would have been a great alliance, like showcase the alliance here. Let's go.
For sure. And then they could all have went and played in the Puerto Rico Open next week. Yeah. They're playing that across from Bay Hill now, because the WGC Mexico's gone.
Wow. See, I don't want to say I'm out of the loop, but I had no idea that we had subfields versus the probably weak Bay Hill field next week.
The Bay Hill field's going to be amazing. Bay Hill is going to be an awesome field next week. It's an elevated event.
Take that back. Yeah, of course.
So
I was just thinking about last year again.
I know.
Bay Hill's dip was on, right? Bay Hill was on a hard decline.
For sure, because it felt like everything that happened to Farmers this year happened to Bay Hill last year. And I do think that the elevated events switch around year to year. So maybe next year Bay Hill will be a weaker event and Farmers will be an elevated event. Then everyone will play Torrey Pines, and then no one will play Bay Hill.
Okay, wow.
And maybe that will help Honda. I don't know.
Okay, I'm excited. I will be, I'm going to Palm Beach this week, Pat. I go Friday. Maybe I'll hit up the course this weekend, but I'll be in the States next week. And with all this regulation, I'm going to make my bets.
You can figure it out, I bet.
Yeah, good thing it's Bay Hill. I'll just bet 2 super elites and maybe just say, yeah, see you another day. See you next week.
Are you going to be able to do the show next week?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good. Yeah, we're not doing football this week. We'll get back to football next week as we do our recap of the win totals with Cuss, but Cuss is unavailable this week, and we're going to be doing the what the hell is the name of the Netflix show? I keep forgetting it. Drive Shaft. Is that
it? Drive to Survive is the F1 show. This is Full Swing.
Full Swing. Yeah, so tomorrow, me, you, and Raza will have a show breaking down the first 3 episodes of that. So I don't want to spoil that whatsoever, but be on the lookout for that in your feed on Tuesday morning. Then Tambo and I, obviously, on Wednesday for the final bets, DraftKings picks, and everything like that. And Paul, you cleaned up you almost cleaned up bigly on Prize Picks XFL, didn't you? I did too. I mean, Josh Gordon. I got Josh, just like Paul. I got Josh Gordon on the final drive of the final game.
Josh Gordon had 34 receiving yards going into the final drive of the game. I had him at under 55.5 and under 60.5, and then he got 40 receiving yards on the final drive. And then they turned the ball over and didn't even score. So it's just like they killed my total. So that was telltale. And Jalen Tolliver in the game before that, he had like a meaningless little pass to get himself over his total. If those 2 guys didn't come or came through, I would have won like 5 figures. I still won like $1,000. It was great. The Sims were great.
Yeah, runthesims.com. Code Mayo will get you 10% off on the XFL too. And now that we actually know what these teams are looking like as opposed to the USFL, it seemed like there was way more passing in the XFL than there was in the USFL. That Justin's going to have everything rigged up. Actually, had a pretty good week on DraftKings. I won money. Didn't win the 100K, unfortunately. But Run the Sims looking good. And the prize pool is still pretty big for next week on DraftKings as well. So go check that out. And if you want to get in on Prize Picks, where it's like basically the only place offering the XFL props, you can hit the link down in the description, but code DOP at sign up for Dogger Pass. Shout out, Paul. That will get you a deposit match of up to $100. So I'd check that out. We had some big winners on DraftKings this week from the show, Jeff. That was good.
Congratulations to everybody.
Shea Mix ended up winning $500 on, what was it? $12. Came second in the $12 single entries. That's pretty good. Someone won $10K. This guy right here put in $50 and won $1,000. Who's that? That is Dylon Bird. That's pretty good. Who else do we have here? Oh, yeah, it was Alex14. He's won his 2nd world championship spot in the last 2 weeks. He won a bunch of money this weekend. So let's see here. 2,000, 17,000, 2,000, 1,500. 1,000. Yeah, dude had a pretty amazing week. So he's going to be in the race for the big money. Too bad Tambo can't buy one of those spots off of him. That'd be pretty good. We had some Run the Sims winners and Showdown for XFL on the weekend. So overall, pretty profitable weekend for people who watch the show. Cody had his PRP hit up until the main event. Recommended everyone hedge out. The hedge worked. I think that was a 60-1 winner. So things don't seem like they're going well, but on the edges, some people are winning some big money. So stay tuned to all of that. Let's talk Tiger for a second because we haven't done that yet. What'd you make of it? I thought you looked pretty good.
Looked fantastic. Fantastic. You have your highs, you have your lows. He exceeded my expectations. He's done a great job at maybe keeping them low, or maybe just life circumstances has kind of kept the expectations low, but he's really great on over exceeding them. And even on Sunday when his putter went ice cold, telling you, Pat, put on video of him anytime he played last year, picking a ball out of a hole compared to this. Completely different. Also, he did have that plantar fasciitis at the father-son, which is a bitch.
But he had a cart, though.
Yeah, no, but just in life, I mean, it's a bitch, but I mean, it's something that can heal and with the treatment. So that didn't really seem like it was an issue at all. I don't want to misspeak. I'm silly enough to be optimistic that he could go in the ground again before the Masters, because he always acknowledges there is no replacement for competitive reps. Especially, like, there's no amount of stakes Tiger could put on a home game with JT that could replicate a 7-foot par on Thursday. I mean, this is one of the richest guys in America. There's no stakes that can replicate what he needs replicated. If his body responds well this week, I'm crazy enough to think he might think he should do it again before the Masters.
When he was talking to, not Balionis, Amanda Renner during the post-round interview, I was pretty pissed off that they didn't have him in the booth.
That's the same person.
Yeah, I know, but she's not Balionis anymore. She's Amanda.
Oh.
I couldn't remember her. She changed her last name.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember that. Anyway,
yeah.
He had
used
mentioned
to play quarterback.
Great. Who did? Tiger?
Yeah,
She did? She played quarterback? Who the fuck are you talking about?
Renner.
Who the fuck is Renner? Jeremy Renner? He's flipping houses and getting into motorcycle accidents?
No, that was a very dangerous snowplow accident. No, her husband was a quarterback.
What, like
Forget where he
like high school?
No.
Who the fuck is this guy you're talking about?
Amanda Balionis Renner.
She played quarterback in what, the NFL?
Oh, never mind. I'm so now I'm even questioning myself.
Anyway, Tiger is who I'd prefer to talk about. Probably shouldn't have brought up names. I'd probably just stick to pronouns.
My fault. My fault. I'm an idiot.
He said he's going to play medalist, obviously, a bunch. It didn't sound like, because she straight up asked him, like, are you going to play again competitively? And you would assume if he was locked into one of these, he'd be like, oh yeah, I'm playing the Players' Championship. Don't worry about that. Didn't say it, though.
He committed to this 10 days out, and it's his event. Like, he's going to go to an event that already kind of sells itself, maybe. Like, I don't know. You're right. Like, should people at the Valspar think they might need to make some logistical changes to tents? If Tiger's showing up, maybe that's something they need to worry about. But I don't think it's going to change. It's going to the hype around the Players if he decides to tee up all these Florida courses. They seem really flat. Valspar might be the hilliest one, but
it's not going to be Valspar. I wish it was Valspar, because that would give him, I don't know if it would give him a chance to win, but I think he'd be pretty good there versus playing the super fields at Bay. He's not going to play Bay Hill, but if he did play Bay Hill, playing in an elevated event, playing the Players is weird because it's such a short course that if there's one thing that he did well at the Genesis amongst anything was his irons were really good.
There were there were moments of sealing Tiger irons. I mean, obviously they're fewer and far between, and there's way more moments of the other, but seemed to even the chipping, the around the green, a lot of it on Saturday was fantastic. There was a moment on Saturday, deep into the day, there were 4 players bogey free, and it was the entire final group in Tiger Woods. So I'm not putting any air in winning an elevated event or a major, because I have my feelings on how finite you'd have to be in the world rankings or something to be able to get that. But I don't know. Now, like a lot of people, your brain starts to go, like, have thoughts, and you get excited. And you're like, if he's able to play, I don't mean consistently, but even not even a normal schedule, like a semblance of minor consistency in leading up to majors, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. And I hope he's healthy enough to do it. And I'm sure, I don't know. How his body responds through this week is probably a huge thing. But he committed to last week, like 10 days out, right? Less. The Players were on the course. Was it Thursday or Friday? It was 7 days. He's like, I'm going to play. So I'm not worried about what he said, because he doesn't want to set up anything when it's all about how his body's responding this week. I'm probably being way too, I don't know, confident. I don't want to say confident. I'm not confident he's going to play again. I hope he plays again, because that would be such an amazing sign that he's simply in such a great place health-wise that he can play 3 events in a 50-day window. Right? Wouldn't that be that'd be amazing?
That would be. But I mean, obviously he's going to do everything he can to be as healthy as he can be for the Masters. Because realistically, you have the Masters, you have the Open Championship. Maybe this at the LA Country Club this year. I don't really know anything about that course. But the Masters and the Open Championship, if there's any chance for him winning another major, it's those 2 that he has the best shot in every single year. Like the US Open, if they grow up the rough too much, like dude's going to have a back injury hacking it out of the rough.
Absolutely. But even in just having this discourse, and a buddy of mine is like, no, he'd rather go play practice rounds at Augusta than another event. I'm like, no, he'd rather play another event. He could play Augusta blindfolded. So you're right. I don't know. He's got to make that decision. What condition would his body be in at Augusta? But if he's actually playing to win, which he says that he only plays to win, then to win, he's got to play again. He's got to play again if winning is even a remote conversation. And maybe it's embarrassing we're even having this conversation. And the question would be, would going to the players and missing the cut be worse for him than not going to the players, assuming he's health, like can do it? No, I would just think playing is the ultimate good thing. And guys can make horrible scores at the players. Even the best players do that all the time, have balloon rounds there.
Well, that's even to say if he makes it to the Masters, because I saw you on the weekend trying to get him canceled on Twitter.
That wasn't me. I would never. That's a part. That's so. I don't. The offense meters are so ridiculous. I mean, anyone that's known Tiger, forgetting the extreme of the ridiculous behavior, but he's just been a locker room talk forever. And that's not, to grab him by the pussy, but he's a locker room talk kind of guy. He grew up that way. His dad was a foul potty mouth guy also. His dad was probably passing him tampons when his dad was an older man and hit one past him or something. This is like the offense to anything culture. I'm proud of the ladies who stood up and said, you ladies who are offended need to just take a freaking hike.
It becomes one of those things, and it happened a lot with Trump as well, where, there are certain things that he would say, they'd be like, oh my God, like this is completely outrageous. This is wrong. But when you start making everything into the same thing, even when it's not offensive, I mean, maybe you were personally offended by it, but it's not like a global consciousness of being offended, and you make everything into the biggest deal of all time, well, then nothing really matters anymore, right? Like, if you're going to make a big deal out of this, what if something actually happens? And you're like, oh, well, we've had the same amount of outrage about this Tiger tampon thing, and also this very other serious thing as well. Like, it did seem, weirdly enough, like people were just as outraged about Tiger as people were about, like, LIV blood money people 12 months ago. Like, it can't be the same standard of outrage, or all outrage doesn't mean anything anymore.
Very well said. And in some ways, I think Tiger feels most bad. The thing Tiger probably feels the worst about of all the fallout of the incident, it's not that he has his own daughter. It's insane to think that he can't make a joke because he's a girl dad. Is that in some ways, Pat, this sent some shrapnel to JT for some of his previous hot mic.
Oh, I didn't see any of that, but I found like it pretty much like people got outraged. I mean, it was probably just such a small minority, but you hear about it and then people have to comment on it, so it extends the cycle a little bit longer. It felt like it lasted like half a day and then no one cared anymore, which is fine.
No, but to your absolute point that you were trying to make, someone like Christine Brennan, who I do respect, and I think she is a strong voice for women and a strong voice for a moral code in sport.
Is her husband a quarterback?
No, that was Brenner. And this Christine Brennan of a long standing USA Today sports writer. Anyhow, it just, like you said, the level of outrage, it takes away from the articles that require true outrage when she is putting this sort of effort and outrage into that. So I do agree. Your main point, I think, is very well taken there. And maybe we get caught up in this bubble of people mad about a small amount of outrage, but nuh-uh. You see it in way too many places by mainstream outlets. People are trying to stir up outrage. Totally unnecessary, and it's part of a bigger problem.
Well, we can keep pushing, kicking the can down the road on the Honda Classic, because literally no one in the world wants to talk about this event. 3 more LIV guys. They got the cream of the crop this time. Danny Lee, who, for the fuck's sake, don't go to Genesis, and I had him in my fucking DraftKings lineup. I could have just had all the Kevin Tway in the world. I was like, no, can't go all in on Kevin Tway. Got to separate it up a little bit, chop it up with some Danny Lee in there, cut it with some Danny Lee. Big mistake. So thanks, Danny, for nothing. Brennan Steele, which this is, I mean, honest to God, this is all fantastic news for all of our bank accounts. That Peters, Steele, and Lee are all going to LIV. We don't have to bet on them anymore. This is great. I'll bet on Brennan Steele on LIV. He's probably one of their better guys now.
Yeah. I like Peters. I was always entertained by Peters. He was like you say, I never really got into the Steele money pit, but I found my way into a few Peters. I would classify all three of these guys very differently.
Sure, but this is I like if LIV is. I mean, they only have what 48 players that they can run out in any. I don't know how any of this works with like the roster construction at this point or who's on what team. I don't really care about that. But this is some like nice, Danny Lee, I don't quite get. Maybe he's on like an Aussie team or something like that, a New Zealand Aussie team. Peters is the real steal, obviously. I mean, except for Brennan Steele. But he's sort of filling that like Hudson Swafford, vet, good depth type player on the LIV Tour where you don't have absolute goobers at the bottom of the field. You can have Brennan Steele at the bottom of the field who could realistically win one of these events. And I saw people talking about these signings don't matter. This is stupid by LIV. Like, who the hell is Thomas Peters? I think that people forget that one of the things that LIV is trying to position itself to do is be a worldwide golf tour. And the PGA has that because it's the biggest, but realistically, it's an American golf tour. Outside of that, like everything is just geared towards the American audience, the time zones, the courses. Obviously, it's almost exclusively played inside of America. At least with LIV, someone like Peters not only has, listen, he doesn't have like complete worldwide appeal. He's far better known internationally than he is stateside. But he's probably the best player the DP World Tour has right now, isn't he?
He's one of them.
Three? Yeah. Like this hurts them.
Yeah, no,
you didn't want to sign with
I
us.
could bet on Thomas Peters.
Daggers into the DP World Tour.
Yeah, I could bet on Thomas Peters on LIV. I wouldn't shy away from that. I'm looking forward to seeing maybe they got numbers up right now on their event.
They don't.
That's weird.
Up. When is their event this week or is it against Valspar?
I thought it was the 24th.
I thought it was.
But maybe, you know what? They had so many fake schedules, Pat. The schedule I looked at last week to see when it was might have been one of like the 7 fake schedules that got released.
Maybe, but you have to remember that February and March have exactly the same days and dates. So Thursday the 24th is also Thursday the 24th in March, too. But no, it does say Mayakoba this week. You're right.
Yeah, see, what a weird, we don't even know. Yeah, but I don't know what, maybe that's was part of the unofficial schedule.
There's an unofficial schedule?
There were like 6 of them. No, there is a real one now, but I'm just saying the lead up to getting a real schedule was a real problem for them, apparently.
I'm looking for odds. I don't see it. Although when I went to like live.com, it says that there's a tournament this week. Either way, who cares? But
I'd have felt really stupid because I did a whole rant that they are playing. I presume. Just a quick question about it all, because how many events does, like, if you're a top player, what is the minimum amount of events you have to play?
On LIV?
No, on LIV you got to play them all. On the PGA Tour, like, what is the minimum requirement asked of the players?
You have to play 3 of the 4 elevated events, I believe, or 4 of the 5. You can only miss one of the elevated events.
I didn't mean to quiz you.
I know that that's the case, but I mean, I don't know what the bare minimum is for any of the players to play. I have no idea.
Okay, I didn't mean to quiz you. I only asked that because if Dustin Johnson, like, playing 14 LIV events plus 4 majors, that's 18 events. I think some of the top guys would play just as much, right? Like, that would be a full season for some of the super elites, or no? Am I crazy? 18 events.
Yeah, I think that you could structure your schedule around it that way, but then I think that there's the part that doesn't get talked about enough. It's like, yeah, you can choose to play in that many tournaments that if you want to. Like, look at Patrick Reed. Patrick Reed's playing in fucking Asian tour events and shit like that. He just wants to play golf. It'd be like if Sung Jae went to LIV, he would find anywhere in the world to play in his off weeks because that's just how he's geared. But when you're someone like Dustin or Brooks or whoever it might be, Bryson, and you do want the part of the PGA thing is when you have all these sponsors and they're paying you to have your name on the hat, like they want you to show up to certain events and you have to do all that corporate stuff at the same time, that it's not 1v1. Like when you go to LIV and you lose all your sponsors, well, you're not super required to go to corporate meetings anymore.
100%. And 14 no-cut guaranteed paydays are different than 14 PGA events.
And
in the elevated structure. And I'm not here to call out DJ.
3 days,
DJ
man.
is
don't overlook. Just it's only 3 days.
DJ is unequivocally still one of my favorites. And I guess that just shows you like who you like, you don't like who you don't like. It won't matter where they play. But I say it often as other guys complain about Ryder Cups or world rankings and this and that. And, you know, they're relentlessly crying about things. DJ doesn't say anything. He knows what he did. He knows exactly why he did it. He's got his exemptions to carry him. It's almost like Cam Smith's a genius. He's got those exemptions. He takes all this free money. Even in 4 or 5 years, if that thing doesn't exist, PGA Tour will be like, we'll take you back. Let's go.
PGA Tour take all these guys back. You kidding me? Live folds tomorrow. All these guys are back.
The PGA Tour, it could end up backfiring, but there was a Shipnick thing this weekend that Brooks might be having buyer's remorse. The PGA Tour should be, anyone can walk back in the door right now, no penalties. If you want in, like, here's your 2-week window.
Listen, I would be far more concerned about the penalties from Saudi Arabia than the PGA Tour.
Of course. Absolutely. And yeah, I don't know. As a golf fan, part of me, as much as I can't stand that LIV exists, this week could be a perfect example of maybe why, like, we're just, I don't want to say, I feel like we're the losers in the end. But then there's moments like this where you have 2 options to golf. They're different styles, they're different fields, but it's just more golf on a screen. Is that bad? I don't know. I go back and forth. I'm not happy it exists. I will still hold by that. I'm not a fan of its existence.
Should we bet steal this week at Mayakoba?
Maybe. No, okay, mixing up Mayakoba and Chapultepec.
Yeah, Mayakoba is the one that, like, if you're good at the Sony Open, you can do well.
The rhyme or reason to the LIV outright winners, like a lot of golf, it's just eluded me, Pat. It's the tight end first touchdown price range of like 12 to 16 to 1 didn't come in at all. It was either randoms that I didn't really forecast or DJ and Cam, I feel.
All right. 51 minutes is probably long enough. Honda Classic. We can spend 2 minutes on this. For the quality of the course and how much excitement this course brings to me, I'm just very disappointed. Seb Straka, obviously the defending champion. Shane Lowry got caught in a rainstorm on the final hole, if you remember of what happened last year. Daniel Hausjerberger absolutely blew it. I think he was like a minus 1,000 favorite at one point in this tournament. Then he just went away after 5 holes, because that can happen here with 15 holes that have water that can sink you pretty quickly. Some guys are going to shoot 80. Honestly, a high-end round robin parlay of top end players to miss the cut might be your best bet this week, because the top end players aren't good.
Yeah, there's a lot of value in that. Didn't we see Im had a horrible week last year?
Yeah, Sungjae missed the cut
favorite
last year. Yeah,
you could be playing well and you just get a bad break into the water. It is everywhere. From a betting perspective, if there's losers you like and you believe they have a 2-under round in them every day,
they're probably going to win.
They could win. They'll win the tournament, or they'll be right there at the very end. Yeah, it's kind of sad to see what's happened to the field. Also, Pat, I always used to, even before this event became the nut low, I'd always take this event and be like, the good players don't even want to play here. Like, they don't want to get humbled by this place.
Okay. Well, let's go to the top end of the field for a second, because Im and Lowry stand above everyone else. Im is 8 to 1 at DraftKings, 850 now. It opened at 7. It's now up to 850. So plus 8.5 to 1 for Sungjae. Shane Lowry is 14 to 1. They're the only 2 players below or above, depending on how you want to say it, 20 to 1. Actually, Sungjae was 9 earlier. Now he's 850. So you could bet both those guys to win if you really think that they are the cream of the crop rising to the top. Yeah. Or you could bet them both to miss the cut in a parlay for 25 to 1. Wait, what do you think is more likely? That one of these 2 guys wins, or at deeper odds that they both miss the cut? I think it's that they both miss the cut.
I can't argue it. I can't argue that. Like, that seems quite sound. I don't know, Pat. I wish you could give me something where I could just yell at you and be like, that's wrong or that's stupid. But you seem to be saying very, very good things today. Maybe that's just regular for you. I there's no way around.
We're gonna fight on the Netflix show recap. I can see it coming. Because your
Whatever. I like what we haven't fought.
Your whole point about you like who you like and you don't like who you don't like, and that either gives them excuses or reasons for you to go in on someone. We're gonna fight about Brooks Koepka.
No, I don't. I think he's.
Save
I liked it. It was real.
Save it.
I don't think we'll maybe even agree. We could shock you, agree on things, but I won't force a fight with you. When we have them, though, they're very intense and they're real, but they end like they're just
they're for
end
the
with
show.
the show. But when we have them, I feel like we really have them. So maybe we are due for one. We're not getting into this. You do everything you do in your life, if it's your profession, to then get offered what Brooks got offered to still play golf.
Yes.
So I don't hold that against anybody. Everyone plays the sport they play or the job they do to one day be offered, whether that's from another team in another sport or in golf somehow. Like, you do what you do to be offered that. So I'm not an idiot. Like, you got to do it. But it's just, dripping. It's like the melting witch in the Wicked West is melting. I want him back, though. I want him back.
Well, save it for the show.
Sorry.
I was doing a
We're going to
tease,
get a
and now you're getting
2.0
into
Brooks one day. We're getting 2.0 Brooks one day, and I'm really excited for it. Okay. I don't remember
if we didn't want to bet John Rahm at 7-1, the hell are we doing betting Sung Jae at 8.5 to 1?
Someone would say the competition.
Yeah.
I'm not, but someone would.
Sure, maybe.
Golf's hard. The variables are everywhere. You go off a stanchion here, you're just going into the water. Although we have seen guys in the bear trap hit the back wall and then get in that bunker. But whatever. One of my favorite golf memories in life was being at the Honda Classic with Kenny Kim when a South Korean won the Honda Classic. One of my great joys in golf fandom was that afternoon. Beside Kenny Kim, Sung JM is mopping up the Honda. I can't touch these guys. We'll just pass. The only question is, we talk about it every week, Pat. It doesn't even matter the field strength. Seems like the good players just win. Now it's good players. I don't want to say good players in totality. I mean, the shorter odd players are just winning. Now, granted, I think we're all going for some long shots this week. We're all, that strategy for how we bet golf 8.5 out of 10 events goes out the window at a field and a course like this. But I have no interest in anything in front of 20.
I just bet Sung Jae and Lowry to miss the cut as a parlay. $40 pays 1,000.
$40 pays 1,000.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you for the mo.
My
peace of mind.
That gives me something to like root for the first 2 days. You know what? Wednesday's show is going to be a bit more extreme with Tambo. Like, this is going to be a really good DraftKings week because whatever you think is going to happen, just do the opposite of that.
And this could be a really great live betting week, except
Yes.
I'm going to be in the States and I won't have access to any of my books because of regulation.
You say that.
Except a couple
Hold on.
offshore things.
You say that. The offshore stuff, and because I remember this being at the DFS Open when Sung Jae won. We had bet Sung Jae going into the week, and I believe that Tambo and I both re-upped on him after round 1. I think he was +2 after the first day. And like being listen, you can have a 72 in your system at this tournament if you want to go like 68, 67 the next 2 days. You're probably still going to be in the lead after that. As long as you don't have the disastrous 77, 78 round, you're pretty much in this tournament the entire time, at least going into Sunday. But we just didn't connect to the Wi-Fi and we still had access to our books.
Yeah, say that is true. And in the old, there are some offshores that work, but in this new
regulated
where I live
geo-blocking
now, everything is. Trust me, if I log into one of my books from that state, I might be banned from these books forever based on the Ontario regulation rules.
I suppose that's true. I don't have to deal with that, so.
Yeah, so I'm saying I'm in this weird position of I love live betting this event because you get carnage and there's there's names no one's ever heard of, but it's a shitty field with no name value. You will catch stale numbers if you're watching this thing on Friday afternoon. I don't doubt it.
And strangely enough, this is one of the better covered tournaments of the year in terms of TV.
We're on to NBC now, and this is the first look at NBC. Maybe we'll see some of their new gimmicks, or it's a soft launch for them before the players in Bay Hill. Usually,
as well, that once NBC takes over like regular coverage of the event on the weekend. Now, historically, they've done it. I don't know if they did it last year. I can't remember at this point, but they will run the regular event on NBC proper. Maybe they've shifted it to Peacock, but before on Golf Channel, they would just run bear trap coverage the entire time, which was awesome.
Yeah, no, the NBC events get a better field because, of course, it's the Golf Channel tie-ins, all that fun stuff. Pat, were you tempted by anyone in the 20s?
Yeah, no. I mean, yes, I really like Min Woo this week, but 25-1. I don't think anyone's going to bet him. So if I do want Min Woo, I mean, the 25 is the best number that I see out there right now. I mean, even with an enhancement, I can get him up to 24 at other places. I bet you he crumbles to like 33, 35 by the time Wednesday rolls around, and then I would bet him. So okay, he's the one on my radar because I just think that, look, it's really hard to judge, but the run that he's on right now is really good. He hasn't finished outside the top 13 of any tournament since like last August. That includes like Abu Dhabi and the Asian event with all the LIV dudes. I think he played in that one too. He's played 2 events this year. And what is he? He is T13, T2. He was T3 at the big Aussie one that Cam won. Like he's a really good player. He won the Scottish Open. And that's another part that I kind of like about it too, is that we've seen Euro Tour players play really well in this event because if it does get windy, they're kind of used to these types of conditions. Like this feels like a European course.
Of course, we mention that all the time. So I'm totally with you on that Min Woo Lee train. It's the low-hanging fruit note of those last 8 starts, 13th, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 12th, 8th, 3rd, 3rd. You've mentioned some of those fields, Pat. Our friend Sky, who they do a European tour show. They should almost do like random or some European tour show. Anyway, it'll be an important show to listen to this week because I'm sure they'll touch on the Honda heavily with the European influence. But
and Sky being there. Sky knows this course well.
100%. And I just hold Sky in such a like an elevated place when it comes to European tour capping. And he touts Min Woo Lee at shitty European fields at 25-30 to 1. Even in that field you mentioned that Cam was in a couple weeks ago, Pat, I swear Min Woo Lee wasn't over 30 to 1.
No, man.
Like that field was probably stronger than this field. So my thought when I saw the 25 this morning, which I haven't bet yet, but it was like, I don't think that's that unfair based on the odds he's had in some really strong Euro fields that I'd argue are stronger than this one. If you're telling me, hold up, we might see a 3 or just breathe because no one's going to bet the 25, I love hearing that because I'd run. I mean, I'm really tempted at the 25. The 3, if it gets bigger, I'm going to bet it for sure. And now I'll hate myself for not, maybe if I don't bet it and only gets to 28, but I am like many, probably really popular. Early this morning was zeroed in on this guy.
Yeah, I wrote him up in my column on DK Nation, but I thought the number would be bigger than this. Shout out to Tom and Sky, who did hit Thunder Bear 22-1 on the show last week. So yeah, Thorborn Olesen. To look at it right now, like I'm looking at the European field. It's the one in India. This is also the first week like I ever met Wiley on Twitter. He tipped me SSP Croatia at this weird course, like the windmill course with the weird bunkers, and he ended up winning. That was the week we hit Jim Herman, first round leader at the Valspar, Hadwin to win the Valspar, and then Croatia to win the Hero Indian Open. It was like the second most profitable golf betting week I've ever had, and Wiley was the one who put me on them. So shout out Matt for that one. But the field over in India this week, there's like you have Higa playing, who's the top like ranked player in the field, Japanese player, but you have Bobby Mack, Olason, Højgaard, Nikolai that is. I don't know if the other Højgaard is playing. Edward Molinari, Jazz, Yannick Paul, Guido, Sean Norris, Armitage, David Law, Mikko Koronen. Like, put these guys in the fucking Gavin Green. Put these guys in the Honda field. What are they doing in India?
Again, it goes to this alliance doesn't seem to be working for the European Tour players like it should be.
And maybe they have the ability to enter this tournament, and since they've been on the Singapore, Thailand swing, they were like, fuck it, let's go to India too.
It's a fair point. There are a lot of golfers around the world who I would like to be here and possibly bet on who are not.
Okay.
Who are certainly not of the quality of guys who played last week.
Do you want me to give you the 3 guys that I bet on so far for the Honda?
Say that one more time. My audio clicked.
Oh, do you want me to give you my 3 guys that I have this week so far?
Well, I just want to put out there that I think me and you, like everybody, woke up this morning and bet Adam Svensson at a 60 to 1.
Yeah. And now he's 35.
Which is now a 30. Yeah. So I was happy I caught that. That is the bet that I have made.
I'm hoping that, I have Svensson at 60 to 1 as well. I'm looking at DraftKings Sportsbook right now, and he is 35 to 1. He's going to be the most popular bet. This reminds me of the JT Poston bet of the John Deere that you and I both didn't bet. So hopefully it works out the same way, that he wins.
Yeah, I feel like that Poston bet, it opened at 80, Pat. I didn't get it. It was at 60. It's like, I don't want to bet that. But I promise you, when he won, the guys who had no one who had a 66 was like, oh, I'm so mad I didn't get the 80.
I just remember I bet Svensson at this tournament last year. I think a lot of us did. In tee to green, he was, at least in my mind, I can go actually and check on this because I have Fantasy National open in front of me. But I remember he hit all 18 greens in regulation one of the round. I just remember him missing like 23-foot putts. That's all that sticks out in my mind was the amount of short putts that he missed at this tournament last year. That's okay. Rectify that.
He's playing well. I think I bet him live here last year at a stale number because there's no way I bet him pre-tournament, but I, like a lot of people, jumped on when you saw like, holy shit, this guy's onto something. I think part of his brand is missing short putts. It's something you just have to live with when you sign up for the Svensson experience.
Let's see. Yeah, he came 9th last year, gained 12 strokes tee to green and lost 4.5 on the greens. That also is very similar to the year that I bet Hatton at this event, and he gained like 14 tee to green and lost 7. And he somehow rallied to make the cut that year. But to go back and look at it, just for point of reference here, he did come top 10 at the Genesis last week, so a nice payday for Adam Svensson, but it was all chipping and putting. He gained 6 strokes around the green and 5.5 on the greens. Lost off the tee and lost on approach.
Okay, that is a concern.
I don't care about that because this field sucks.
The field sucks, but if you're going to being a little wild off the tee is going to cause you some big problems here that it didn't cause last week, as we saw a lot of the elite players. These guys can just sort of hit it past any true trouble. But I'm willing to just, if Svensson's putting well, I'm willing to trust the other. Going back to a course where he should have great memories, in good form. His weakness is, in my opinion, is that putter. That seems to be in playing well. I'm willing to hope to get this Svensson irons back. I'm betting on at 60 to 1. I bet it. 35 to 1.
Yeah, I would not.
So that's too short.
It's too short. Yeah. Because now you're into the range. Like the other guys who were in the 20s, you got Wise, Kirk, Noren, Minwoo, Kuchar, Denny McCarthy. They're all in the 20s right now. Horschel, Poston, Svensson now, Dietrich, Pendrith, defending champ Seb Straka, Cam Davis, Moronk, Harris English, Johnny Vegas. Those are all the guys below 50 to 1. I didn't come into the week wanting to bet Billy Horschel, but I bet him at 30 to 1 because I think that number is outrageous for this event. Like it's probably fair. But if I could bet Noren at 22 or Billy Horschel at 30, I'm going to bet Billy Horschel.
The Billy Horschel 30 to 1 seems like the most fair number on the board. I'd go as far to say it's better than fair, which can be a hard ask in outright golf betting. Sometimes I think these numbers are never fair. even the guy from the top to the bottom, I still haven't made the bet. I'm not here for it.
Kuchar's super live. He was second tee to green behind Rahm last week.
Very sneaky. Yeah, he was shorter on the board. He was, a lot of people, Pat, were watching the weekend and there was concern for what could happen to the Denny number or the Svensson number. And I'm even there thinking like, oh no, will it? Like Honda could be perfect for him. Stop playing so well. But all of a sudden it was Matt Kuchar who clearly had the biggest rise up the board, I feel. His on what the number might have been a week ago to what it is now.
Like just looking at all these guys, I don't like or dislike anyone anyone really from this range, but I'm fine passing on all of them. Like I said, I'll bet Minwoo if he drops down. If Kuchar drops down to 35 or 40, which he's not going to do, I would bet him then. But I just think that just pick whatever one shoots +2 in the first round, then bet on them then for 3 times the odds.
It's hard to counter that. And I'm going to bring up a name, and I don't bet him, so you're not going to make fun of me like I'm bringing up Bo Hostler. But McCarthy finished third here last year. He was had that unconscious Sunday.
He feels like he's on the precipice. I agree with you. He's just not going to get... you know what? At 28-1 in this field, with the way that he's been playing, I don't think he's a bad bet. I'm probably not going to bet on him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought we might have argued. I'm not betting him yet either. I think I prefer Minwoo Lee, and I don't see myself making multiple bets under 30-1.
Like Kirk is super live here too. He's come third and third in 2 non-elevated events. He came, I think, third at the Sony, third at the American Express. Like, this is also a course where he plays great. I'm just not going to bet Chris Kirk, who never wins at 25-1.
You've got to, as we joke every week, and I don't even know that it's a joke. It's probably a serious statement. You almost have to give yourself reasons to not bet a guy to then land on the 4, 5, 6 guys you are going to bet on.
With Kirk, again, if he shoots 73 day one and he's 110-1, then yeah, he'll get my money probably. Even if it's like nothing points to him rebounding, stats will not tell the entire story of this course unless someone drops like 5 strokes putting in the first day, something like that. Because if you hit it into the water on your drive or your approach, your stats are going to look like shit. I bet Johnny Vegas at 50 too. I like Vegas this week. He did the opposite of Denny and Kuchar. He struck the ball incredibly well at Genesis and couldn't make a fucking putt to save his life. Good enough for me. He's gained in putting 3 of the past 4 years at this course. He's been first round leader, I think, a couple times at this course. That might be the way to play this week. Of all the losers who just can't close a tournament, like bet Chris Kirk first round leader, Johnny Vegas first round leader, like all the Davis Riley first round leader.
This does seem like a first round leader party potentially. That Vegas first, he's made 5 or 6 straight cuts here. So he's pretty comfortable around this place. And you sort of made your comment, Pat, of how you see value in taking the 2 best players in the field and picking them against the cut. Making that many consecutive cuts here is a bigger accomplishment than maybe most courses, I would argue.
Yeah, we've seen Vegas do really well at the Players as well. And the sneaky thing about this course, which people often overlook, which may not play itself out right now, because I can't determine whether it's an actual skill trend or all of the best players who used to win this event just had that skill. But bombers play well at this course. And you wouldn't think that, because it's a shorter course and there's forced layups, but they don't have as long of irons into these greens. And if you don't have as long of irons into these greens, you're not going to put it in the water as often. And you can take advantage of the par 5s, which you have to do with this course.
I was in attendance on a Sunday when it was Luke List versus Justin Thomas in a playoff.
With Noren and Fleetwood just out of that playoff.
Yes, but to your point of bombers, I've lost a lot of money on Gary Woodland here, who's a nice club down player. That's a good point. So do we like Aaron? Like we put in some life in Aaron.
We also had a playoff with Keith Mitchell and Brooks Koepka here as well, and Ricky.
I want to say Mitchell hit that to keep it out of the playoff. That we were upset we didn't get this amazing.
Is that what
Keith
happened?
Mitchell? I think so.
Maybe
Because
you're
when
right.
Keith was dealing yesterday, I was like, Keith has slayed a dragon or two before when no one thought he would.
Poor Keith, man. He didn't make a putt until 18.
Yeah, Keith and Willie, they had 13 footers. It felt like all day. Just, they wouldn't fall.
Let's see. In terms of driving distance, Aaron Wise rates out around the same as Sungjae and Lowry and Noren as it pertains to driving distance. He's slightly above those guys, but he's not elite. Like, Minwoo Lee is elite off the tee in terms of driving distance. I just worry that he might hit into the water 80 times. It'd be like betting on EVR here. Ryan Palmer. Can we bet on most water balls? Is that a bet we can make this week, DraftKings Sportsbook? Ryan Palmer, but most water balls.
Okay. Can I make an option for that? And I might pick him to win. And I know by me picking him to win guarantees there's at least 110 coming. And you're going to say why, but I look at this field and I could get sucked into an EVR vortex, but it comes with a 10 on a par 4. Would you be mad at me if I just quickly asked you, is there anything that you saw this weekend from these great golfers at Riviera that gives you a Masters thought? Maybe Morikawa, maybe Zalatoris. I'm not saying a bet.
Yeah, I like those guys. I think I bet both those guys at Augusta last year. I like those guys at Augusta. I think they have good games for it.
Yeah, you just saw that around the green from Morikawa, just a lovely sign. Although there was some shorter putt issues.
Yeah, but
felt like it was early in the round.
The Morikawa stuff, it's like he gets temporary yips when it comes to putting and chipping, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. Like the first year he's played Riviera 3 times now. I think the first year he lost 7 strokes putting. And last year, he gained like 9 strokes putting on the greens. And like chipping this year and last year, he was great chipping around Riviera. And those are very specific green complexes to get up and down. Very much similar to Augusta National. I'd say that's the biggest comp of those two courses, are the giant fast greens, the weird undulations, and the chipping when you miss greens and regulation. So I think that's a bonus sign for Morikawa that he's able to do that at both of those. And we've seen that in the past. I mean, that's where Bubba was so good. Bubba couldn't chip at any course outside of Riviera and Augusta.
Is there a Max Homa Masters number that is too low for you now? Like, there's so much hype about him, and obviously LA Country Club, but the Riv, the Quail, more Riv success.
You know, I don't think of him as someone who's going to win the Masters. Maybe I'm wrong on that. He never had my interest for Augusta. He always had my interest for the U.S. Open.
That's fair. I mean, there's people that have
both
him at all 4 majors now. I don't have any. I will.
Oh, you don't have the 50-1 U.S. Open?
No.
Oh, you missed out on that one. We all bet at the week of Farmers.
Maybe. Yeah, not me. Although with football season over and my pendings like cleared out and a lot of loser futures sort of missing, I did not think I had a single Masters bet. But no one should be surprised that in DraftKings Sportsbook, Pat, at the very bottom, there's a Tony Finau 50-1. So
50?
I thought I haven't had a Masters future. I found one pending yesterday. So I have one Masters future.
When did you make a Tony Finau 50-1 Masters bet?
It's really funny. It's embarrassing how long ago it was because I looked at that date, July 31st.
Okay, I mean, that would actually make sense before he got his 2 wins.
It might have been when the second one came and there was still a 50 and, like he's one of my guys.
That's a good number,
that was an easy one. Oh yeah. Great number. But it was so long ago that was so far into the pendings. And I don't know. How do you put this? Sometimes books leave pending bets in there way longer than they should. Like my enhanced advanced Tom Hoagie to win Pebble Beach at 33-1 is still sitting in my pendings.
All right. Is there anyone else that you really want to talk about? Because I have some names to throw at you, but I haven't made the wagers yet. Maybe I'll get there to try to build up a card of like 60 to 300-1. One of them is Brent Grant, who's 300-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm not entirely sure he's officially in the field, but driving distance and fairways, very good. Hits the ball a mile and hits a ton of fairways. And I think he was been T25, T20 at Farmers and Pebble. So for a 300-1 long shot, I don't think that's the craziest idea in the world. Maybe you want to play him a top 40, something like that. But the numbers suggest that he's actually pretty good, at least lately. But you have like your boy Dietrich, Will Gordon, Nick Hardy, Bramlett, Danny Willett, who actually showed up last week, which was nice. Hayden Buckley, 65-1. Like, these are all names that I'm throwing around. Davis Riley is 90-1. Now, I think that you can make a case for a lot of these guys, although Riley's been like pathetic so far this year. But in terms of pure talent, back on Bermuda, I think that could be a nice fit for him, but I just don't know what I want to do.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of Dietrich. He's never played here before. Penrith's played here once and has the a T25. I think it was exactly 25, so that could be something that sucked me in. Riley, there are other guys that are a little shorter than Riley that I feel like I just can trust more at the moment. You mentioned Buckley. Even I feel like you were on Nick Hardy a couple weeks ago. I feel like he could be sneaky in that little mix right now, although he's having some real struggles.
Struggles on the green. He was like bad last week across the board. I don't know because I rostered him on DraftKings. He was not good.
Yeah, the putting has been bad for a little bit there. I mentioned I don't mind EVR, which could be absolutely ridiculous.
So you got no one. It's okay if you got no one.
No, I don't have no one. I like Willett. You mentioned him. I saw him as high as 80-1. That I'm very tempted for that to get my money. Will Gordon as high as 85-1 seems tempting if I'm going to be building that post 60-1 card. And this is a painful one, but I don't hate Russell Knox, Pat. And that's just a losing proposition because he's not doing anything right now. But I do not hate him here.
Okay.
Do not hate him here.
Listen, you can make a legit case for any loser in this field because this is a loser field. And sure, why not? It'd be like S.H. Kim. Why? I don't know. Because maybe. Patty Harrington is 75-1 in this field. He's a Sonora.
If you think a guy can shoot 2 under, 1.5 under a day, then maybe you need to bet him. I thought we'd come here today and you would give me a Carl Jan long shot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's 250-1, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, I don't know where I like him. I think he is a good player. Obviously, he has winning pedigree from the Corn Ferry. Yeah, I can be talked into that. You might as well take him 250-1 now, and maybe he has a great first round, and all of a sudden he's like 30-1, because that's going to happen to these betting boards. So I can be talked into that. Pearson Coody is in the field. Oh, hello. I'm Pearson Coody. Oh, if this was a stock market game, maybe I'd be doing a lot better. Can't believe this guy's fucking name. He should change his name to like Steve or something like that, because his name is outrageous. Like if I was if I was a pickpocket, I would just fucking follow this guy around. Oh, I dropped my thousands of dollars out of my pocket. Daddy's money. This is just, I mean, he could be the poorest dude alive. I don't know. He just sounds like he grew up as the richest person in the world.
The worst current form under 50-1 has to be Davis, right? Cam Davis?
Yeah. There's a chance he's like hurt.
You're running through red lights, a lot of them on Fantasy National.
But
it's a cavalcade of red week in, week out at the moment. But I don't know, maybe I'm trying to find him on Bermuda.
He plays well at shorter courses. That I can attest to. I went through that on the research show when I went through it. So, and he does have a ton of distance. So maybe he's another like Gary Woodland type when it comes down to like Will Gordon. I think is interesting. I see him at as low as 70. I mean, Moronk I like. I don't know if I like him at 40 in this field. Maybe I should. I mean, I hit him 33-1 at the Irish Open last year. I mean, we have some news about him. Webb Simpson's 80. That seems deep.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not doing it.
That does seem a little heavy. I could just have a card of young international players and have Moronk on it. Played very well last week. That's a bit of a whirlwind. Genesis to Florida. He went unconscious for a little bit. Was that Friday or Friday and Saturday?
Friday he was. I think he ended up 4 under, but he was 5 under most of the day. But he had to come out and finish a hole in the morning and bogeyed it.
You need a tough Thursday of it. It's hard to quantify what the numbers, like the value of the numbers in the field, so bad, because you're like, oh, I gotta bet this guy 45-1. Even Johnny Vegas. Like, oh, wish I can get more for Johnny Vegas.
Yeah, 50-1 is fine. I bet him at worse than that at like the 3M.
Yeah, but it's just this field is so bad. Thomas Detrew's like 180-1 last week.
Well, John Rahm's not here.
Wednesday.
Sung Jae is John Rahm now. All right.
Sung Jae
enough
is
about
John Rahm.
Yeah, well, in terms of the odds. Enough of this stupid tournament. Quick picks for the Honda Classic. Billy Horschel, 30-1. Johnny Vegas, 50-1. Adam Svensson, 60-1. Obviously, that number's gone. That sucks. I wouldn't bet him at 35. Miscut parlay. Sung Jae and Shane Lowry, 25-1. Let's go on that front. And I'll add guys throughout the week. I'll talk it through with Tambo a little bit more, and then I'll release all of the final plays in the newsletter, which you can subscribe to for free down in the newsletter, or just Google Pat Mayo Substack, and boom, it'll pop up for you. Who you got?
So really the only player under 30-1 that I could have is Minwoo Lee, I think. I'm really onto that. I hope you're spot on with how that number moves. Pendrith, 45-1 is something I'm looking at. I have bet Adam Svensson at 60, which does seem pretty silly. Well, like that's gone. I don't advocate for the 35, as you said. I will probably be betting Buckley and Nick Hardy, Pat. So just a really random bunch of losers.
Yeah,
so I don't know that I'm seeing this thing.
I too am going to wait for the Minwoo number. If it doesn't get there, it doesn't get there. But I do want to save some bullets for after round 1, after round 2. I think you kind of hit on it. This is a pretty good live betting opportunity. Straka, I think, was 7 off the lead after round 1 last year. Guys blow up all the time. Berger had this tournament won until he didn't last year. Don't forget that.
So many times. Felt like Westwood had this thing won, and then Sung Jae came up and took it. And I want to say someone had a 5-stroke. Yeah, we've seen huge.
Berger had a 5-stroke lead.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that was it. And hey, poor DB, where's he at? He's down the street from this one.
Just chilling at his house. I will give Brent Grant a deeper look, but 300-1, like, who cares? Throw $10 on it.
And I don't mind. I actually don't think I'm Danny Willett at 80-1. I'm probably gonna bet that. Also, quickly going past 100, I've been a sucker for the guy. Grayson Sig could be a long shot. I like to.
One and done picks for the week. Cust has taken. I want to see how he spelled this because this is pretty good. He's taking Adrian Moronk, and there's zero chance he knows who that is. He's doing it just to fucking troll me.
He heard you speak about him last week, and I'm not even assuming he watched the show. So was he in a text thread where you were talking up Moronk?
No, he must have watched the show last week.
Pat, you were tweeting about Moronk.
That is true. I was tweeting about.
He saw your tweets. This is like Mito.
He spelt it moronic. So I assume that's who he means. That's who he's taking. I'm going to take Cooch.
I think I'm going to hit a double. Denny McCarthy.
Denny. Don't burn anyone good this week. Not that there's really anyone good to burn, but take some flyers here. Go against the grain because it doesn't matter if you get 0. Only if you win this tournament does it really make a difference in the one and done. Our 3-man is a little bit different. But in terms of like the overall race for the Mayo Cup, there's no needle movers this week. But we still have to catch Cuss. He has a winner in our 3-man already.
Yeah. Nothing's going right for me in golf. That's right. Okay.
We got a long year left.
6 events into the golf season, Pat. I am essentially Brooks moping around my house. Like in that episode. Like, that's me. What's wrong? You
can just watch Selling Sunset with your wife like I do with my wife. Like Brooks does.
Like that's I've lost my confidence. Like Brooks after just six events. We're late. Yeah, we're in the 20s of February, so we're going to be in March into next week. Yeah. Okay.
That will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Tune in tomorrow for a recap of Netflix Golf. Again, totally forgot what the name of it was. We'll do episodes 1, 2, and 3. Don't want to get too ahead of everyone else, and we can expand more content out of it. Roz is going to join the two of us to break that down. Listeners League is now open, fantasynational.com/Mayo. Get you 20% off, and if you do want to try to take... Listen, I'm not recommending that you watch the XFL, although I heard it was pretty entertaining. I wouldn't know. I didn't watch it. But runthesims.com, code Mayo will get you 10% off the monthly or the weekly, whichever one that you want, and try to take advantage while these prize pools are still big. People have bad numbers. We have good numbers. So you try to get on that. The prize picks props are up there as well for XFL. So you can try to be like Paul and myself and try to win some money doing that too. All right. Thank you all for watching. Smash the like on the way out. And I'll see you next time.
Fan Mayo Experience! Experience!